Welcome to the Literally First Class podcast, where I will teach you how to overcome anxiety and achieve somatic success. I'm your host, Keri Ford. I'm a somatic success and holistic life coach here to bring humor, insight, and wisdom to the modern day woman that wants to feel alive in her daily life. You ready? Come on, I saved you a seat in first class. Okay, so I have a lot to say in the next couple of episodes. And so what we're going to do is in this episode, I'm going to talk about how I chose my doctor, Dr. David Rankin here in Jupiter, Florida, of Aquaplastic Surgery. And then I'm also going to talk about the day of surgery, arriving, and the whole process of going through breast explant surgery. In another episode, I will address all of the many questions I have received on comments and DMs. I think I've gained about 200 or 300 new followers in the past 2 days alone. So clearly there is a need for not just support and people talking about this in real time and to be vulnerable with their stories, but also I feel the somatic and spiritual identity shift work that is required to let these go and truly heal yourself energetically. So let's first talk about how I chose Dr. Rankin. I knew that when I was starting to do explant surgery research that I wanted to go, obviously, to a skilled doctor. We don't want to come out of surgery worse off than we looked before. We certainly don't want to be deformed. There are a lot of things that can go wrong. And I had already had a pretty extensive surgery when I got the implants in. When I first got the implants in, I got implants after having 2 children and after years of weight loss and weight gain and fitness competitions, and I just had a ton of extra skin. I had measured at an A cup of tissue, but I had a C cup of skin. So you do the math. It was basically if you pinch the skin stays pinched. And it would melt out of my bra, like I would bend over and there was just, you couldn't even wear a push-up bra. There was nothing to push up. It just indented into the skin. And so regardless, I had this extra skin. I chose aesthetically to also get the implant, even though what I really probably should have done in retrospect is just get the lift and potentially a fat transfer for that upper volume I was looking for at my breast. There are so many surgeries that you can do without implants, especially nowadays, and I wish I had educated myself more on the risks of implants. I thought, okay, I'll choose an implant that is quote-unquote safe, right? FDA approved. I will choose one that doesn't have a high risk of rupturing, meaning actively leaking in the body, and then I'll be safe. I'll be good, because in my mind, the only risk was the danger of silicone in your body happens if the breast implant ruptures. However, what I have learned in this research in preparation of my breast explant surgery is that it doesn't matter what is inside the implant. The implant itself, whether it's filled with saline or silicone, is coated and created by a silicone shell. The entire implant is a silicone shell. That is what leaks in your body, whether or not the inside of the implant is leaking its contents out. You still are exposed to the toxins and the heavy metals that come from silicone because guess what? If you have implants, you have silicone actively leaking in your body and into your bloodstream. It is constantly leaching because that's what silicone does. And it is, again, it makes up the external shell of all implants. That is what keeps them together. So, those of you that think that you are safe from silicone, that is not true. You can still be and are, in fact, exposed to silicone, again, I'm going to say it again, toxins and heavy metals, simply because you have an implant in your body. It doesn't matter what's inside it. The outside of it is 100% silicone and made of all sorts of chemicals that don't play nice with our body, our immune systems, our nervous systems, and they can cause all sorts of mysterious issues, autoimmune disorders, neurological symptoms, all the things that I had. I did not have symptoms happen all at once. It was like a slow boil over a period of 7 years. I did, however, have neck pain right away after the implants. However, I had also had an injury that was a lifting injury on that same side. So I attributed the pain to an old fitness lifting injury that just was persistent and wouldn't go away. However, over time it should have, because as a previous personal trainer, I knew the things to do to rehab that shoulder and that AC joint, and it simply wasn't adding up. I was going to the chiropractor, I reduced and removed gluten, I had done food sensitivity tests, I had done nerve tests, I was going to the chiropractor 1-2 times a week consistently, and I had one chiropractor ask me, and I just remembered this recently, I had one chiropractor ask me, "Did you get into a car accident?" And I'm like, "No, you would totally know if I got in a car accident because I would tell you." And he goes, "It's just so bizarre because I'm looking at your x-ray, your neck is clearly pulling to the left and forward, and it looks like you've been in a car accident." But here was the issue. No one ever connected the dots that it was in fact the implants that were causing that strain and that pull on my neck, which then in turn was pushing on a nerve branch in my left trap, and it was impinging the nerve, stretching the muscle very thin and tight. And then that impingement was causing migraines. The migraines started off somewhat infrequently. I thought maybe they were, again, aligned to my cycle. They were hormonal. They were stress related. I mean, this is all through COVID and everything. Jake having a traumatic brain injury, so many life things that it was very hard to pinpoint, is this exclusively implants or not? It never even crossed my mind, to be honest with you. So up until I started getting more and more frequent migraines that were not aligned with my cycle, that were not reflective of the hormone panel I had in blood work, which came back normal, then I decided I really need to escalate this and look more seriously into what is causing this. I don't feel right. Something doesn't feel right. And that is how I started looking up breast explant surgery. I believe I clicked on breast explant hashtag on Instagram and I found Dr. David Rankin. From the get-go, I loved his content because he was, first of all, serving a very high-profile woman. So I felt safety in knowing that he's serving women that are in the limelight. And if something had gone wrong, I'm pretty sure I would have heard about it, considering the high-profile people he's working with. They're on TV, they're in the media, they're everywhere. So if something had gone wrong, we surely would have heard about it. So there was some safety in how public he was. Also, I liked that he worked on women that are in front of cameras and obviously don't want to be deformed after a surgery. I don't think anyone ever goes into a surgery saying, "Hey, you know what? I'd love to be deformed." But that was important to me, that these are women that also make a career and have emphasis on how they look, right? And they're actresses and they're on TV, like I said, and they have lots of media coverage around them. And so that created additional safety for me. And the more and more I consumed of his content, the more I thought, let me just have a consult and see what happens. I happened to be coming down to West Palm Beach, which was, again, this sort of God wink, God nudge, if you will, that indicated to me I was on the right path. It was kind of like a breadcrumb. And I was already coming down here. And the week prior to coming down here, I ended up booking a consultation with Dr. David Rankin's team here in Jupiter. I was coming down for Leanne's event, the Rich Queen event, my dear friend. And I just thought, while I'm down there, maybe I can schedule an appointment. Well, he was booked up. He was unable to do an in-person consult the week that it would align for me, but I was able to get a virtual consultation with one of his experts. And this man's name is Jeff Rose. So Jeff texts me and we set up a time to chat. Jeff was very specific in the questions he asked me. They were not leading questions, and that's important to know. They weren't leading me toward something that was implicating anything. It was just very factual, as if he had a checklist of questions. And the questions were everything from how tall are you to what kind of implant did you have? Do you feel that the implant is proportionate to your body? Are the implants above the muscle or under the muscle? And very black and white, again, factual questions. Nothing was leading. So he asked me at this point in the conversation, or maybe 10 minutes in, he asked me, do you have any muscle or joint pain? And I said, I do. I have this pain in my left neck and it will not go away. It's chronic, it's constant, it aches, it burns. And he said, let me ask you this. Do you also have tingling and numbness in your hand? I said, yeah, I do. I have reduced grip in my left hand. I have reduced feeling in my ring finger and my pinky. And if I really focus on it, I can feel like a slight burning down my arm. It's not always there. I said, but then there's these migraines. And he goes, okay. He goes, so I'm not saying you have this, but what you are describing is something called brachial plexus injury. And you can Google brachial plexus injury or TOS and just tell me whether you do it on this call or you do it after. And we were just on a phone call, so he couldn't see my face. We're on a Zoom call, or we're not on a Zoom call. And so he has me Google it. And I of course, I'm already like, I pulled it up. And he couldn't see my face, but my body, as soon as I saw those pictures, I saw where the pain point was. I saw the symptoms, like where the branch of the nerves actually affects on the left side of the body. I saw all of it in this visual representation. And the minute I saw those words on the screen and those pictures, my body had instant resonance. And suddenly I had words for what I had been experiencing for the past 7 years, but more specifically for the past 2, where I've had very severe migraines that last 3 to 4 days at a time. So I got emotional on him. He couldn't see me, but I was crying. That's how resonant this message was in my body. That's how I didn't even need to go any further to quote unquote prove that I have this. It was like, this is 100% exactly what I've been struggling with. And holy shit, this is from the implants? I had no words. I had to process after that call. And it was maybe a 25 minute call. And I said, Jeff, I already have this pulled up on my screen. And I got to tell you, like, this is 100% what I feel like I'm struggling with. And he said, you know what? The thing about brachial plexus injury is that this impingement actually causes migraines. And I was like, oh my God. In that moment, I seriously was so upset at myself for getting implants because I did this to myself. I caused this pain. And it was just a humbling, truthful moment. So he says, you must be in a lot of pain. And I said, I am. I am in a lot of pain. And he said, I have a background in sports and supporting athletes. And he said, there are grown men with this injury that cry daily because of how much pain they're in. So we have a 20-month wait list, but we're going to add you to the cancellation list if and when there's a cancellation. I can't promise anything, but we'll put you on that list because you're considered what we call a pain patient. And that was enough. So I got off that call and I was processing, like, holy shit. All the emotions, sadness and regret for having done this to myself, anger at doctors and chiropractors that I had been to over the years, and not one of them had ever linked this back to implants. And these are people that work, especially the chiropractors, that work with the body. So the next week I went into the chiropractor that I had been currently seeing, and I said to her, she asked, how are things? I said to her, well, I have some new information. I am getting breast explant surgery, and I've realized that this whole time, how I always have this neck that's out of alignment? This is caused from a brachial plexus injury due to the implant. And she was like, wow, thank you so much for teaching me something new. And I got pissed because I don't want to fucking teach you something new. Where is the mastery anymore? You should be teaching me this. I shouldn't come to you with new information and teach you how to know the body. I was just like, fuck, that just really bothered me. Anyway, I'm glad she has that information because now maybe she can help other people that have this, but that just blew my mind. So I end up having a surgery date scheduled. It's not till April 2025. And in one breath, I'm happy because it gives me some time and space to process this. And in the other, I'm thinking, it took a lot of courage to even book that consultation call and arrive in this moment here where I decided to get the explant surgery. Can I wait that long? And I made the decision I will have the explant surgery, in December. That was the date I had in mind because I have all this travel coming up. I'm co-leading a retreat in Mexico in a few weeks. I knew I was speaking at this event in West Palm Beach. I just have all these things that I needed to get done, and I physically needed to be present for a lot of them. And so I get a call, and you guys saw the video on Instagram the moment I found out that the surgery is happening sooner than I thought. And I tried to make that date work. It didn't work out for me because that original patient was able to make their original time work. That was fine. We found a different date a few weeks later, and I went in for surgery. Surgery is done. I sit here explanted. The implants have been explanted officially. So on Monday, I went in for the surgery. So it was a little stressful getting there because not only is this a 5-figure investment to work with Dr. David Rankin, but also it's not in my home state, so I have to travel. And we were thinking, do we fly? Do we drive? It's quite a drive. It was about 9 hours from Atlanta, where we live. And we were coming from California at the same time. So we're trying to play with all sorts of logistics and scenarios because then the kids, it's a lot. So finally, my parents are coming up to watch the kids. Great. We've got that worked out. We're coming back from our second home in Palm Springs, which had been on the calendar for months, on Saturday, this past Saturday. And then we basically get home, sleep in our bed, and then Sunday get on the road. We decided to drive. Here's why we decided to drive. Because when you have explant surgery, they give you drains. And the drains drain out extra fluid, sometimes tissue and blood, after they've removed this from your body. And so the drains have to come out before you're cleared to travel back home, whether you're getting on a flight or you're leaving the city in a car, doesn't matter. So that can be anywhere between, they tell you 8 to 10 days, but really anywhere from 5 to 10 days, depending on the amount of fluid that you're draining. And so we decided to drive for a few reasons. We wanted the convenience of the car, we wanted the flexibility of our schedule, and we wanted the comfort of being in our own space versus me maybe getting bumped by somebody. I can't lift my luggage on the plane. It just felt like a whole to-do. So we drove down Sunday, and it was about 9.5 hours. So we get here, we're pretty tired, especially coming from the West Coast all the way here. And we had booked an Airbnb in West Palm Beach. Cutest condo ever. Highly recommend if you're traveling from out of town, make sure you have somewhere that has a kitchen and has a homey feel to it. You're going to spend a lot of time there, and it's really nice to have the comforts of home, even away from home. And so we have this lovely condo. It's super cute. Jake has been amazing, all the cooking, all the things. So my surgery was scheduled for 10:30 a.m. on Monday. We stuck to the schedule. I show up at 10:30. At this point, I still haven't met Dr. David Rankin, so I've essentially given 5 figures of an investment to a stranger on the internet. And I've shown up, and I'm here, ready to go. And I'm topless in a hospital gown in his office, and I have yet to meet the man doing surgery. But this is a good thing because the more he stays in his zone of genius, which is doing the actual surgeries, and everyone does all the other things for him, the better. I don't need to meet him before the surgery. I want to know, is he an expert in his field? Is he good at what he does? And what does his reputation look and sound like? And all of those things for me matched up exponentially, in fact. So not only did he have a really beautiful reputation that I looked into online, the high profile clientele, the clientele that's in front of cameras a lot, that again, obviously it's even more important that they're not deformed, I would think, being on camera. And the other thing that was important to me was that, is this a person that knows explant surgery well? Dr. David Rankin is one of 7 explant specialists in the United States. What that means is this. He is one of 7 doctors who only does explant surgery. All he does, day in and day out, is explant surgery. In fact, he won't even do implant surgery anymore because of the dangers and the risks that he knows are involved, and because of all of the things that he has seen throughout his career of removing these implants from women that are suffering with silent, mysterious autoimmune disorders and neurological issues because of the implants. In fact, his staff has been with him for a number of years, and many of them have had personal experiences with breast implant illness or complications from implants as well. His explant liaison and this guy, Jeff Rose, his wife had explant surgery, and so he has this long time staff that has been with him that have personal experiences and feel extremely convicted around this explant, movement. And that was another reason why I wanted to go with him. So he removes the entire capsule, which is important because you want to remove all of that gunk from your body because you don't want to leave behind any residual silicone, because don't forget, even if it's not ruptured, like I said before, you still have silicone in your body because the implant itself is covered in a silicone shell. They have known for years, not these doctors, but the FDA and the silicone factories, they have known for years that these leak in your body and that the silicone actually leaches. Go watch the Explant documentary on Netflix. It blows my fucking mind that we are even allowed to put these in our body and figure out over the span of 5, 10, 15 years that, oh shit, actually, this was never a good idea and we are poisoning ourselves. What the fuck? So I am totally for plastic surgery. And I know I said on a previous episode, like, hey, you want to get the implants, go for it. No, fuck implants. Do not get implants. It is not worth it. There are so many other surgeries you can get. I'm still pro plastic surgery. Don't put implants in your body. It is not about the foreign object. It's about the silicone being in your body. Do not get implants. It is not worth it. And I've paid a very expensive price to learn this on my own. I don't want you to go through what I went through. It's not worth it. And I get it. It is so ingrained and entrenched and programmed into what we think our worth and our value is as women. And I want to share with you like a guide that I'm putting together for free as a free resource. But anyway, I want to go back to the surgery because I have so many other things to say. So I show up at 10:30. I've never met Dr. Rankin. I meet with my nurse, who's a total doll, and they help me remove an earring because I have to remove all of your jewelry before surgery. I have a belly button ring. I've got several earrings. So I'm removing all of them except this one damn earring will not come out. And it's getting, quite irritated with me actually trying to futz with it. And it's got one of those rubber backings on it. It won't budge. I'm like the night before, I'm trying to get it with soap and water. Nope, nothing. I'm like, you know what? They're cutting me open on the table. They're bound to have something that can cut this thing off. Whether they throw the earring out or not, I don't care. Just get it out of my ear. So I show up, they help me get it out. They did end up having to cut the rubber backing off. And we do a couple last minute consultation forms, sign-offs. We do before pictures, which is just for my medical record. You can decide if you want to release your photos or not. I didn't want mine on the internet. I'm sure I'll post my own, but I like being in control of what I'm choosing to show. And we do, the formalities of that. And then she tells me what's going to happen next. So what happens next is Dr. Rankin comes into the office and then he looks at my previous scars and he assesses what the best plan of action will be. I loved him. He's very reserved in his energy, very sweet and very objective. So there was no condescending, leading type of energy where I felt convinced or talked into anything. That was important because a lot of the time, and I've been in consultations when I was getting implant surgery, when I was doing all of that, I felt like some surgeons were pushy. They want this implant and no, you need that. And here's what you should look like. And they kind of manhandle you a little bit roughly. that was not my experience with Dr. Rankin. So what I had previously when I got implant surgery was I had, like I said, an A cup of tissue, a C cup of skin. So the problem was we had to reduce some skin, but also fill out the skin from the inside. And so that's where the implant came in. Again, I should have done a fat transfer and a lift and just called it quits there. But I was like, no, we'll do the implant too. So we did an implant. We did a lollipop lift where they cut around the nipple. Then they cut from the base of the nipple to the base of the breast. And then in kind of a keyhole shape, they draw like a triangle, and then they pull the skin at the base of the breast together, tighter, and then they move the nipple up. I also had to have an anchor incision, which looks kind of like a smiley face under the base of the breast. So I had 3 previous scars. The anchor under the breast, like the smile, the base of the nipple to the base of the breast straight down, and then around the nipple where they had removed the nipple and then placed it back on the breast up higher for the lift. So I had all 3 of those things, and I was a little fearful that am I going to come out of this surgery now that I have these previous scars that have healed up actually pretty nicely. You barely see the lines, if I'm being honest, except a little bit under the breast. Am I going to come out looking like a Franken woman, like Frankenstein? So, he takes a look. We look at, different heights of the nipple, the natural unevenness of breast, the size of the breast, what my end goal is. We talk about all those things. He also tells me how much breast tissue he thinks I have, which was a B. So I was like, yay. Although I will tell you at this point, I was like, I don't even care if I am an A. Like, I am just going to be so happy to have my health back. And you know what? I can still be super sexy with those fun V-necks and anyway, fit and flat. I was totally all about it. So he tells me, I think you've got about a B of tissue. And he was right. And he said, I don't see the need to cut over where those scars are. It looks like those have healed really nicely. But if you're wanting a little bit of that lift effect, here's what I'm thinking we could do. And we could do an anchor incision again, but we would cut out the old scar. So now think about it like a smile from a jack-o'-lantern, where it has a little bit of an arc to it. And we'll do that, and then we can pull it down and push the breast up, and then we'll secure it there. That way it moves this nipple down a little bit. It'll be even with this. And he's walking me through how that would look like, with his expertise. And I'm like, ooh, yeah, that feels right. That sounds good. Let's do it. So he's marking me up, and I just feel so heard and seen, and almost like we're co-creating together versus his agenda, his way, and forcing me to do it this way. Because he's got this specific lift that he does. I think it's called the J lift, and I'm going to have him on the podcast actually where he can talk about some of this. But I believe his signature lift is called the J lift. He created it specifically for explant patients. But because I'm coming in with having had a previous lift, we did a modified lift. And the only thing I'll say about the modified lift is it's just a lift that he saw would make sense for my breast and my previous surgical history. So it made sense for me. Felt really good, and that's what we decided on. So I don't know, a few minutes goes by, he leaves the room, a few minutes goes by, I wait, and next thing they bring me into, I'm trying to remember now because it starts to get a little foggy. I didn't have any meds or anything at this point. They bring me into the OR, which is like walking me down the hall. And I honestly felt so much peace. I have to be honest, this was probably the most peaceful I've ever felt about any surgery. Normally, I'm a little bit nervous. There was one moment I remember laying on the table where I felt like, ooh, I could cry right now, and I feel a little, emotion rising, but it was so minor compared to previous surgeries. And I just felt this neutral peace. It's kind of surreal, actually. So I get up on the table and, I know what happened before that. Before I went into the OR, I met with the anesthesiologist, who was a Spitfire. She was super cute. And she just, a couple quick questions before we went in. Do you do well with anesthesia? When's the last time you ate? Blah, blah, blah. Then we went in the OR. So we go in there. My nurse is in there. Dr. Rankin is not in there yet. The anesthesiologist. They lay me on the table. They're hooking me up to I already had the IV pick in my arm. So they're hooking me up to the IV. I ended up getting the nerve block. These are things that Dr. Rankin offers. I got the nerve block, what's called the banana bag, and also the vitamin drip. So these are a combination, both the banana bag and the IV. Those are a combination of vitamins that help with healing post-op. So it's like vitamin C and thiamine and some other great things. The nerve block is just to help with the initial pain. I felt so damn great the day after surgery. I was like, wow, I feel amazing. Now I feel a little bit more sore, of course, but I did not have to take any hardcore painkillers. I'm on Tylenol. So that was super helpful because I don't do well with painkillers and they really mess with my body. So I'm in the OR. They're hooking up the IV. I remember they're putting on leg compression garments to massage you so you don't get a blood clot. And they're also securing my arms to my sides like in a T shape and my legs into these Velcro pads. And it's just so your body doesn't like flail around in surgery and like, hello, you don't want to kick him by accident and have the knife miss. And you also want everything to be even. So it's helpful when your arms are splayed out to the side like that. They also needed to monitor certain things such as my blood pressure while I'm under anesthesia. I'm only 5 feet, so her job is challenging because she's got to give me just enough that I'm sleeping and I'm out, but not so little that I wake up, obviously. So that's pretty much all I remember. I start feeling, a little bit like I've had a glass of wine, and I heard them laughing and joking a little bit, and I asked my nurse if she stays in there during surgery, and she said no. And that's the last I remember. I closed my eyes and I woke up in the other room, which was like the recovery area. And Jake was with me by the time I woke up. I don't really remember getting into the recovery room. It was, similar to a hospital. There's curtains around you and you're in a little cute bed. I remember Jake eating my saltine crackers and they were giving me some water, which my mouth was so dry. The crackers were like making a paste in my mouth. So I kept asking for water. Apparently I asked, how soon can we have sex? And told the nurse we like to have a lot of sex, which is hilarious. She said, it's funny. It's not even on the paperwork. And I don't know that anyone's ever asked this. So she had to go ask. And she said 3 weeks. And I apparently said 3 weeks. That's a long time. So and Jake was being funny. And then at one point he hugged me and I got he said, "How are you doing?" And I said, "I'm emotional." And I just nuzzled into his neck and said, "I love you." So I was being lovey drunk, I guess, if you will. So apparently I was horny and lovey. But yeah, that's really all I remember. I remember getting into the wheelchair. They pushed me out to the car. And she told me I did a good job not using my arms because you have to use T-Rex arms, they call it, where you just keep your arms up and really just minimal movement. And I got in the car and I was like, yeah, I feel a little tipsy, but I feel good. I didn't have any pain. I went on a walk later that night. I had an appetite. They tell you might feel nauseous. You might feel dizzy. You might not have an appetite. You can have soup and crackers, but Jake got us some delicious tacos from a nearby place. I had these shrimp tacos with rice and beans and I had a full-on appetite. So I felt great. I don't remember some of the conversations I had with people because, you're still a little loopy. But I was like, awesome. Yeah, I can do this. I'm healing. I feel good. And you know what's crazy? I immediately could turn my head all the way to the left without pain or stiffness for the first time in 7 fucking years. Oh my God, I can't believe we do this to ourselves. So the next day, I go back for a post-op appointment, and you can't shower for 48 hours. And I'm on Arnica Forte, which is a healing supplement, a week before surgery and a week after surgery, as well as an antibiotic to prevent any bacterial infections. I've got drains that have to be emptied every 4 hours, which Jake helps me with. I'm taking Tylenol as needed, and I do have a prescription for muscle relaxers, which I've only taken one at night to help me sleep a little bit because sitting upright, even 45 degrees, is super uncomfortable. Although I don't think I'm going to take those moving forward because they just really knock me on my ass. So that's pretty much it for the meds. I went back for the post-op appointment yesterday, and everything looks great. I got to see my boobs for the first time, and they are so cute, and they are definitely like a B. They might be a little swollen, and there's still like the drain tube inside there, but oh my gosh, I love them. I can't believe I went through all of this just to come back home to my body and say, I love you exactly as you are. Like, you're amazing and beautiful. And what an expensive lesson. Holy shit. Going back, I totally would have done a breast lift and a fat transfer and probably just stopped there. Anyway, post-op appointment went great. I have a compression bra and an ace bandage on. I can keep that on until Friday, and then the drains come out on day 5 for me. So yeah, I mean, I feel pretty good. I will say as the days have gone on, I feel more and more sore. Listen to this story. So I did a lot of emotional and somatic preparation for surgery. Here's why. How we go into trauma is also how we come out of trauma. Surgery is a trauma to the body. Think about someone who goes into a surgery like just hysterical and crying and like emotionally flooded. How they come out will likely affect their level of healing and the length of time that it takes for their body to heal, especially at an emotional level, which, as you know, can become physical. So I did a lot of somatic preparation. The first thing I did was I did a breast implant release ceremony. If you want the breast implant release ceremony, we're going to be putting you can do we have a sign up form. We're going to put that link in the show notes here. And you just put your first name, your last name, and your email. It's free. It's a free resource for you. And you can just make your own ceremony, or you can copy exactly what I did and how I did it, because it was extremely specific. It focused on forgiving the past version of me that chose to have the implants, letting go of the present attachment to them, and then choosing to release the implant to be open to healing and receive coming home to my body. So it was a very specific and intentional ceremony, and I want to provide that as a free somatic resource for anyone that's about to go through explant surgery or that has gone through it that feels like there's still some attachment to how they used to look and maybe having trouble looking in the mirror. This will help with that. So click that link in the show notes and you can just put your email in and we'll send it to you, no questions asked. It's totally free. It's always going to be free. I just want to give back and share my gifts and my knowledge and expertise with people that really need it for this specific sensitive surgery. It's a big deal. It's a really big deal. So I did that. And then I also, the night before the surgery, I walked through the surgery in my mind. So I was on the table in the OR in my mind, and through this self-guided meditation, I had Dr. Rankin, he had the knife. In the meditation, he did only do an incision under the breast, just like he agreed on the day of surgery, which was pretty funny. So he did the incision under the breast. It was a nice, clean incision. And my body was ready to let go of the implants, but the implants didn't want to go. So as I get to this point in the surgery in my mind, like again, this is in my mind in a meditation the night before surgery actually happens, I'm guiding ahead of time how I want it to go with ease and peace and healing. The implants don't want to go. And I'm like, gosh, that's so bizarre. And so I asked the implants in the meditation, okay, my body wants to let you go. Why don't you want to go? And the implants said, you need me. I want you to need me. And it was like when you have two pieces of paper glued together and the glue hasn't yet dried and you try and pull them apart. You know how there's all those sticky glue threads and adhesions? That's like how it was. It was super sticky and the implant just did not want to go. And I kept starting over with the surgery in my mind. Okay, the incision, he opens it gently. The implant comes out. My body is ready to let it go. It's sticky again. So I finally got to this point in the meditation, and I think I kind of fell asleep around the same time, but where the implants were like, fine, we'll go. Everything is energy, and even things that seem like they don't have a consciousness do. And so it was fascinating to me to notice that the implants had a consciousness of their own based on what I had given it, the power I had given to the implants. And so, this is amazing, but this is how powerful the somatic connection to the mind and the body truly are. Have I ever seen the inside of my body with the implant? No. Was I awake during the surgery? No. I had no right to know that information. And you know what happened? He did in fact only do the incision under the breast just like I had imagined. But also, when he called me later to check in on how I was doing, he told me that specifically on the left side, which is over where your heart is, the implant did not want to go. It was sticky, and he was very attached to the chest wall, and he probably had to scrape my ribs in the chest wall to get it off, to get the full thing out. So when I tell you that the mind-body connection and the power of somatic connection to yourself is so incredible and so important, you have the ability to decide things and to intuitively know things. And I knew on some level that my body told me that those implants, I had given them power somewhere along the way and they didn't really want to leave. And so that's what happened in the surgery. Like, they didn't want to go, and he finally, got them out. But it was just fascinating because I knew that going into surgery, and I wasn't surprised at all when he told me that was actually what happened. So just fascinating. And because I had already recorded in my mind the surgery, actually going in felt that much easier. And I think that's why I was in so much peace. And I also think it's why I was in so much peace after the fact. Again, I'm sore, but when I check in with myself, I don't feel sadness around the loss of them. I feel excited. I didn't feel nervous to see my breasts. I felt happy. I already feel better emotionally and physically, and I can't wait to have the drains out and continue healing. So all in all, it was amazing. I will also tell you that as I was leaving my post-op appointment yesterday, there was a woman in there. She was very well dressed. She was very good looking. She was probably in her 50s. You could tell took very good care of herself. And I overheard her talking to her friend, and she said, maybe I'll just get the saline implants because those will be safer. And her friend said, yeah, I have a friend that's had those for a while, and she seems to be doing fine with them. And the woman goes, well, yeah, I just want to see my options because maybe it is time to get these out, but I'm just so scared. And how many of us have thought that same thing? Like, I know these aren't good for me. I know that these aren't healthy to have in my body, and yet it's a price I'm willing to pay so that I can feel more beautiful, I can be more confident, I can look the way I want to look. Trust me, I was there too. I pushed it all out. I was like, that won't happen to me. Now, I didn't technically have all of the breast implant illness symptoms, but I had quite a few when you think about it. And like I said, it happened slowly over a long period of time. It's not like I had symptoms all at once. If I had had everything all at once, all at the same time, I'm sure I would have rushed to this appointment. But it just was like, well, I don't know. Do we have mold in our house? Let's get that tested. And well, maybe it's a hormonal thing, and let me get that tested. And maybe I'm just stressed. No, that doesn't really resonate because I do this work for a living. And it just, over time, let me just take out alcohol, do that for 60 days and see if anything changes. And just more time goes by and the symptoms get worse and nothing really seems to help it. And this just became glaringly obvious that this was the common denominator. So I was not really sure if I was going to go up to this woman and say anything, but she made eye contact with me a couple times. So I went up to her and I said, can I share something with you? And she said, sure. I said, I just got explant surgery, and I'm going to tell you I feel the best I have felt in years because my neck was driving me crazy, and I can turn my head for the first time in 7 years. So if you're on the fence about getting them out, do it. I said the saline implants, it doesn't matter. They're all made with a silicone shell, and that is the thing that leaches into our body. And she goes, oh my God, really? And I thought, this is the problem with, we think we're, signing up for something with informed consent. And there is no fucking informed consent. What kind of consent is that? It's made with fucking silicone. It leaches in your body simply because you have an implant there. I just can't even believe it. Shame on me for not doing more research, but I don't know. So anyway, she was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And she goes, I have neck problems too. She goes, I get these headaches when I work out. And I said, I had headaches as well. And she goes, oh my God. We talked for a few more minutes. She goes, I feel like you were a guardian angel just meant to connect with me today. And I can't thank you enough for sharing your story. And you look amazing. And I just thank you for giving me the courage to go into this appointment. And I knew that little nudge was from God for me to go over and chat with her. So whatever she does with that information, that's her path, her journey, but we are so attached to how we look with these implants, and it's a really big deal. So if you're not sure where to start, I have started putting together some of these resources and guides that are free to offer somatic support through the transition. Even if you've gone through it and you feel like there's still a part of you that's waiting and hoping or attached in some way, emotionally holding on to or missing how you used to look, just put your email into the link in the show notes and we'll give you the guide once it's finished. By the time this airs, it might be finished, but we're putting it together actively right now. And I want to create a couple more resources around that as well. I'm not really sure what, but we're going to start with the ceremony guide. Then we'll go from there. So thanks for listening. This was the operation recap, surgery recap, and I'm going to record another podcast that answers all the many questions, even though I may have answered some of them, but I'm going to do a Q&A around breast explant surgery on the next episode. So I'll see you guys there. Keep it first class.
I hope you enjoyed your flight, and I'll see you on board again soon.
Seriously though, thanks for listening. If you're ready to take this work deeper and upgrade your mind, I want to invite you to join us inside my Millionaire Mindset program. This is where you'll start using my guided meditations to help you overcome anxiety and experience even more abundance. When you join, you'll have access to my entire audio library. Head over to elevatewithkeri.com and we'll see you inside.